I'm back. All right. Bring up Bernie Sanders. Okay, I just finished the stars of Joe Biden. And now I'm going to bring up the stars of, I should have had this all set in place, but I had Joe Biden's up still. Sorry about this. I should have had that all ready to go. All right. Well, while I'm waiting for this to load, I can memorize some of the stuff I've put down. So Bernie Sanders was born on September 8th, 1941 in Brooklyn, New York. And he has a stellium in his first house. Let me go to his chart. No, that's Joe Biden's. I don't want Joe Biden's chart. I'm done with him. I want Bernie's chart. There we go. There we go. Okay, so he has a stellium, and he has a Sun in Virgo. He has a Neptune in Virgo, which in the realm of ancient astrology, there are certain placements that are excellent placements. Neptune in Virgo is one of them. Mars in Capricorn is another one. Very good placement. Okay. There's just certain placements that are real excellent for handling energy. Neptune in Pisces would be horrible. It's a horrible placement for some people. I can say that because I have that placement natally, and luckily I'm in the esoteric realm, so I can decipher between what is complete fantasy and what is reality. But there are other people who don't know how to handle that energy. Okay, so he also has a dragon's head in Virgo. As a Virgo, Bernie, as we can see from what we see on the news, he's a great organizer with good attention to detail. He's, methodical in everything he puts into detail. Every project he undertakes, he does very well. He's also very courageous and would like to be a leader or a ruler. And even if he doesn't get elected president, he's the leader of a very big movement, whether you like him or not. There's a big movement, and it's not dying. In fact, I've noticed a pattern from observing politics that a lot of candidates you saw in 2016, his views were too radical, but you notice that they've kind of taken on some of his views. So they've kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? They've jumped the bandwagon, so to speak. But it was him that created some of these views. The only danger here for Bernie is that he has a tendency he can overdo it by becoming too critical and overworking himself. And I do think that is what has happened with his heart attack. That doesn't mean he's unhealthy. I think he's probably somewhat healthier than Trump right now. Virgos are socially gracious, and they are repulsed by vulgar behavior. Now, his first house placement indicates a very forceful personality, and you have seen that. The issue of power will continue to keep reoccurring in his relationships, but he's older now, so he's probably learned through the years to cultivate some sort of spirit of compromise, which he has, as you can see from being one of the only Democratic candidates to appear on Fox News the other night. I was like, wow, good for him. One of the most positive aspects of Bernie Sanders is his very direct and brutal honesty. And there's an old saying my teacher used to say, and that is that when they like what you say, they love you. But when you really make them think, they start to really hate you. And I think some of the things Bernie talks about, it makes people really, really think. And a lot of people don't want to think. They want someone to think for them. Now, like I said, this placement indicates that he is generally healthy, and I know all about the heart attack, and he had a pacemaker put in. And let me tell you, my grandmother had a heart attack, heart issues in her 70s. Had a pacemaker put in. She lived another 25 years, made it to 99. So if there are any sign in the zodiac that can handle old age, Capricorn is the ruler of old age, but Virgo is a very close second to old age. Those two signs seem to handle old age very well. So yeah, he may be old, and he's just as old as Biden, but his mental process is much more accurate and much more acute. Bernie's mental process could probably run circles around both Trump and Biden because of where his star placement is. Now, Neptune and Virgo, this is the best placement for Neptune to be, because Neptune can be about illusions and delusions, but when it goes into a critical, organized sign like Virgo, it becomes a sponge for new information, and he will apply it in practicalities. Now, Bernie is scientifically oriented, and because of this placement, it's going to make him very skeptical of the metaphysical and psychic world. Unfortunately, I could never be his astrologer for this reason, because if I was his astrologer, he'd be winning. His greatest satisfaction does come from serving others instead of himself. He is hypersensitive, he is a visionary, and he's artistically creative. He does have strong psychic abilities, but since he dismisses the metaphysical world for the scientific world, he'll never be able to tap into those energies that could very well help him win an election. Now, Bernie's dragon's head is in Virgo, making him a double Virgo. He is very sensitive and compassionate, and others often come to him seeking comfort. He has the ability to feel the pain of others. He's very much an empath. And I do think I think he takes on energies of other people, because empaths do that. And I've always told my empaths, you've got to let that go. You've got to not absorb certain energies, because there are people in this world that are, I call them energy vampires. Okay. And they know exactly what they're doing, and they will suck the life out of you. I think Bernie's come in contact with certain people. He has the ability to feel the pain of others, and he can be an easy mark for these hard luck stories that people come at him with. And I know this is not me not having any sympathy for the American workers right now. I'm one of those people. I just think sometimes he has too big of a heart. It's not a bad thing, but it can be something that people take advantage of. Now, this is what I would tell him if I was his astrologer, because the information I'm giving you right now, just like the information I gave you on Biden, is coming straight from my software. I run their charts and I compose this. I pick things out of their chart and I put it into a newsletter. All this information is coming directly from my software. This isn't stuff I've created in my head. This has been calculated in my software. These are their celestial stars, their celestial identity. All right, now where was I? In many lifetimes, Bernie has been deceived by people who took advantage of his compassionate nature. His challenge now in this life is to realize he cannot help everyone, and he's going to have to develop judgment and discrimination. He's going to have to learn to say no and stick to it. But his empathic characteristics and things like that, it's a must that he learn to focus on the positives of his dragon's head and not fall into the tail, and some of which he has already achieved, such as genius in research and organization. He's a great communicator and public relations person. He's an empath. He's a very empathic individual, which has its positive and its negatives. in the realm of politics. There's nothing empathic about politics. Politics is horrible. It's brutal. It's mean. It divides people. And when I talk about the two cancers in this world, well, politics is one of them. Religion is the other. The two cancers that plague this world are those two issues. Okay, where was I? Now let's move on to his second house, because I've covered pretty much all the stelliums that are right in his first. Second house, he has two things going on. He's got Mercury, which is the planet of communication, in Libra, second house. This is all about group efforts. Libra is all about groups and harmonizing and balance and the laws and justice, and it's this is where that slogan, not me, us, comes from. It's so very Libra. Others are usually impressed by his rational or completely unhinged by his logic. It's one way or the other. They're impressed or they're unhinged by it. His mind is well balanced, and his persuasive public speaking techniques he's gone far with those qualities. It is important for him to have a harmonious social life, and he is very choosy on who he picks as friends. He has a sharp mind. With his sharp mind, natural administrative and organizing abilities, he could have great success turning his inventive ideas into material wealth, which he has. Virgo is the natural born book writer, and Bernie has made money on his best-selling book. It has put him at millionaire status. Venus in Libra. Now, this is the other planet that's cruising his second house, and this is all about the value of marriage and personal fulfillment. His surroundings must be harmonious, and he has learned the value of money from an early life because he had parents who were fairly poor living in Brooklyn. As most people, myself included, my family is from Brooklyn, New York. My grandparents came here from Italy, and Brooklyn has always been a big melting pot, especially for Jews, Italians, Irish, those three nationalities, Chinese, big melting pot, and especially Brooklyn, but also through all the other boroughs as well. So he has learned the value of money at an early age because he didn't have any money. He has a natural talent for finance. So I do believe, because of this placement, Bernie could get in there and budget the books, but they don't want him. The establishment will not let him in because he will uncover and expose a great many things. And like I just said in my newsletter, this is explain why the elitists in Washington do not want this man in office. Since he has a flair for finance, he will expose the sins. Now, Bernie has a Mars in Aries. We're going to skip over to his Mars. I don't cover every planet, but I do cover the very, very important ones. And Mars in Aries is very important, and it's in the 8th house. On the negative aspect, and I did not put this in my newsletter. I kept my newsletter as positive as possible. But when you have Mars in the 8th house, the 8th house is the house of death. Mars is action. It's violence. Bernie does have the stars where he could get assassinated. Mars is violence. 8th house is life, death, drama, transformation. There is a possibility that he could get assassinated if elected president. He has both an active mind and an active lifestyle. This placement creates people who are very enthusiastic about life and wants to live every moment to its fullest. With Mars and its home sign of Aries, this is a persistent person, but this also pertains to him more in his younger days than I see now, but he can often act without thinking through all the consequences, and therefore this can be rash and impulsive. This can even result in injuries, especially to the head. And you notice through the, didn't he fall in the shower a while back and he had a thing on his head? The night of the Democratic election, not the okay, I'm going back in time, 4 years ago, during the DNC convention, when they go and they elect their candidate, they endorsed Hillary. I was watching Bernie's body language, and he looked like he had been beat up by someone. I don't know who. The body language that he exuded was just, for myself, as an intuitive speculation, but I wouldn't put it past certain political leaders to have had him jumped for some reason. But he, if you notice, he's always hitting his head. So there's issues with that with him. Let's see, where was I now? Mars in Aries isn't known for their patience. So karmically, he can make up for past lives of greed and abuse by sharing his resources with others in need. And he is doing that, as you can tell. Bernie's moon is also in the 8th house of Aries. And moon in Aries people are known for their fiery tempers, although they quickly get over it. Individual freedom and self-expression are incredibly important to these individuals, along with new ideas. In his career, he is attracted to a position of authority, and he often achieves them. On the negative side, this placement can be all talk and no action. This house placement also gives emotions a scorpionic touch. Scorpio rules the 8th house. So he probably saw his mother as an intense individual as a child, and his relationship with her transformed him in some way. And I'm sure it did. He talks about his parents a lot, I've seen in speeches and whatnot, and I'm sure it did transform him. There is nothing superficial about him in any way. Like I said, out of all your candidates, this one is the most honest, whether you agree with him or not, whether you agree with me or not, whether you agree with his politics. I'm not coming from a political place right now. I'm coming from an astrological and spiritual place. Yeah, out of all your candidates, he's the most honest. But in the realm of Washington, honesty, it doesn't pay. Let's see, where was I now? I went on my little rant. Bernie does look for the deeper meaning in things. When you feel, he feels with the depths of his soul. Now, for wondering why Bernie has such an acute mind and mental process, this would be why. And here we go. The Lord of Luck, Jupiter, is in Gemini for Bernie, and this is actually cruising his 10th house. 10th house represents career. Okay, public standing. And if you go and you Google most popular senator, his name is the first one that comes up. Whether you love him or hate him, he is the most popular senator. But when you have Gemini in the 10th house of the Lord, with the Lord of Luck and Jupiter there, you're going to have someone who has a career with public standing. This placement gives souls a keen sense of humor and a witty conversationalist. They try to be the internal optimist and try to lend a helping hand to others in need. Bernie has a high regard for education, as you can well see, and travel and keys to building your mind, and is well versed in the latest technologies and development. He is very much into science and technology. He's also very skillful at the command of language, and he can be an effective speaker. This placement of Jupiter indicates that he will have more than his share of just plain good luck, which he has. be highly ambitious, and have a self-discipline required to achieve success in his chosen career. He will seek the honor and respect of his peers and community, and he feels a strong sense of responsibility towards society as a whole. And you have seen that. He's quite the humanitarian and he does care deeply about people. There has been a lot of controversy on both sides, conservative, Republican, Democratic, liberal, on both sides of the party on Bernie Sanders. Now, the conservatives think he's nuts. Trump calls him crazy Bernie, and many hate him. Unfortunately, what I'm going to say, you out there, some of you will not like, but I don't care. Bernie Sanders, he is of Jewish descent, and there are a lot of people in this world that hate Jews. Let's just call it what it is. We have not evolved 60 years ago. I mean, there are people out there that don't even know anything about the Holocaust. But yes, the Conservative Party does own the KKK and white nationalism. Sorry, folks, that doesn't mean you are a white nationalist, but those two factions seem to have chosen the Conservative Party. You just saw it last week. I think he was in Phoenix, Arizona, doing a speech, and some asshat in the rafters dropped a Nazi flag. I've said this many times on other broadcasts and in my newsletters, and I'll say it one more time to all of you. Tolerance for a great many people. I don't judge people by the political party they stand by, because I know we as humans are programmed by our stars to be Democratic or Republican or liberal or conservative. We're programmed by our stars. But what I don't have tolerance for is a racist. I don't have time for a homophobic, a xenophobic, and a racist. And unfortunately, some of you racists out there, you hide in the Republican Party. I'm not saying the Democrats aren't racist either. There's a big faction of them too. But unfortunately, Bernie Sanders is hated on both sides, not just the Republican Party. The Democratic Party hates his guts too, because it's all about lobbyists and money and the highest donor. That's what it's about. However, I do think his heart is in the right place. And just for the record, after observing things on TV, and I try to not watch a whole lot of politics, but lately it's kind of just been thrown in my face. I have noticed that out of all the news organizations out there, Fox News has been the fairest to Bernie. That's saying something. MSNBC hasn't. And I have caught MSNBC in so many lies, a multitude of lies. I don't watch Fox News enough to call them out on their lies. I see it all over the internet. But trust me, Fox News is not just the only network that lies and is deceitful to its listeners. It's also MSNBC too. You've really got to start listening to news that doesn't have an agenda of any political party. Then you will get factual news. Okay. I do think that Bernie's heart is in the right place. It is just trying to bring America, he's trying to bring America into the 21st century with healthcare. I get that, and I get that because of my relatives in Canada. Canadians don't have this issue. My relatives in Italy don't have this issue. My friends in Holland don't have this issue. My friends in England don't have this issue. Friends in Germany don't have this issue. And I can go on and on and on and on about this, but it's true. This is not some radical idea for some people to have universal health care. It's done in several other nations. So I do think his heart is in the right place, and he is trying to bring America into the 21st century with health care. It does make me wonder about how corrupt our own government is, and why is it so damn hard for this nation to have universal health care? Medicare is universal health care. We're okay with that. Public education is free education. It's public education from kinder to 12th. All he wants to do is add 4 more years to it, or 2 more years. You're already in socialism in some way. Think about it. Think about it. Canada, France, Norway, and many other nations have this for their citizens. These countries are not communist states, but free sovereign nations for democracy. And some of you out there really need to pick up a dictionary and look up the words communism, socialism, and fascism. Now, socially liberal. I don't know if you can comprehend what that means. And socialism is not the socialism you're thinking of in Germany. I guess when I think of a democratic socialist, besides Bernie Sanders, Martin Luther King comes to mind. Kennedy comes to mind. Where are these men now? That's right, they were assassinated. I worry about Bernie. He has the potential to be assassinated, whether it's for his politics or because of his race, because that's how screwed in the head some people are in this country. And understand this, and I've said this before in my broadcasts too. Democrat, Republican are polarities like the sun and the moon, night and day, God and the devil. You can't get rid of one without the other. They're always going to be there. There's always going to be both those energies. Just like people are programmed within their own more conservative or more democratic. They're programmed by their stars. And I'm not just bagging on the Republicans. The Democrats throw this around too. I watch the Democratic debates with the communism and the socialism comments. I've seen it. So it's not, I'm not just bagging on Republicans. I'm bagging on both parties. Unfortunately, most of us, not most of us, but a great many of us have been indoctrinated to have disdain for the very thing that is a human right. And it is a human right. I have a couple of relatives, I'm not going to drop names, that many years ago got their citizenship. They have dual citizenship, both here and Italy. I sure as hell wouldn't go to Italy right now, but I had asked one of them, why? Out of curiosity. Well, I'm a single male and I can't afford a whole lot of health care in this country. As to where if I became a citizen of Italy, which is fine, my family has roots there. There's my relatives over in Italy have an olive oil company and are in business for themselves. And so it would make sense for my relatives, some of my relatives, to go over there and do that, especially the ones that are over there all the time. And he has dual citizenship and he has universal health care. So if there's something major going on with him, he doesn't have the money to afford that bunion surgery or kidney stones that he has, because it's hundreds of thousands of dollars in this country, he goes to Italy to have that done. Makes sense. Anyway, in the end, I feel that Bernie has his heart in the right place, but the corruption from the establishment will never allow him to be president. I would be very surprised if he gets in as president or even as the nomination. Okay, that's a whole nother issue I find really strange. 4 or 5 weeks ago, Biden was like lower than what's her name? Warren. He was lower in the polls than Warren, and then all miraculously, all of a sudden, I just find that a little strange. But Biden will not be able to beat Trump, but Bernie would clean the floor with Donald Trump, because education and true facts will be thrown at Trump so quickly and so fast that Trump will not be able to process all of this at once, and he'll have a temper tantrum, because we have a very imbalanced toddler mentality in the White House. Trump fears Bernie, okay? And it's not that he fears Bernie the man. He doesn't fear Bernie as a man, okay? It's not what he fears. He fears what's behind him, a movement of people. Angry at that. There's a lot of angry people out there too. You know, he's got a whole movement behind him. Biden doesn't. So be prepared when you go and watch your presidential debate between Biden and Trump. It's not going to be about us. It's not going to be about what we need as a nation, what's good for our people. This is going to be a shit show back and forth between these two and their egos. This is, you know, I don't know how to say it. I'm not only friends with him, but I support him greatly. I've interviewed him on radio before, and that's Greg Palast. If you ever get a chance to go and Google him, look up Greg Palast. He's an investigative journalist, and he's uncovered a lot of things. And he's uncovered a lot of things that are going on with voter suppression, corruption, and lies that are happening right under us. And back to Bernie Sanders for a minute. Whether he gets elected president or not, or even the Democratic nomination, he's going to definitely be the grandfather that goes down as the man who crushes the DNC. And I'm all for it. Dramatic changes are coming in politics, folks, so get ready. Like I've said before, I do not enjoy reading these, and I'm sure I will lose followers today. But I don't really give a rat's ass. Because, you know why? Stars never lie. And I can always judge someone by their character, by their celestial makeup and blueprint. With that being said, excuse me, if you have any questions about this, don't hesitate to contact me, Alpha Star Radio, or no, astrologywitch22@gmail, or astrologywitch.com if you want to read these forecasts that I posted on the 2 presidential ones. Tomorrow I will do the stars of Donald Trump. I can only deal with 2 politicians a day. I have most of Donald Trump's done already. I'm just adding a few things in. Donald Trump has been very lucky. Everything that happens to him is by pure luck. And I'll explain some more of that to you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and have a great day. See you later.